Good morning, everyone. All of you know that we were discussing the literary terms. Today's topic will be aestheticism or aesthetic movement in art and literature. So, without wasting time, let's get started. So, the dictionary meaning of aestheticism is a doctrine that the principles of beauty are basic to other, and especially moral principle. In Merriam-Webster, it is written that aestheticism is a doctrine, that the principles of beauty are basic to other. That is, the principles of beauty are supreme to the other moral principles. That is where the prime focus is given to beauty only, is known as aestheticism. Okay? Another definition by Merriam-Webster is it is a devotion to or emphasis on beauty or the cultivation of the arts. Okay? That is, while cultivating the art or art form, the devotion should be or emphasis should be on the beauty. Okay? So this is the definition of aestheticism in in literal meaning. So I think it is a very simple thing. You can understand it very well. Okay, let's get started with what is written in a glossary of literary terms by M.H. Abrams. Before telling the M.H. Abrams views, I would like to tell you the definition of aestheticism in Wikipedia. It is an interesting one. This is why I have picked it up. Okay, in Wikipedia it is written that aestheticism was an art movement, both practical and theoretical, of the late 19th century, supporting an emphasis on aesthetic value and effects. In preference to the socio-political themes, I think you are understanding the point. Okay, it is an art movement emphasizing on aesthetic value and effects during 19th century, both practical and theoretical, not giving preference to the socio-political themes in the art form, whether it is literature or fine art or music or any kind of art. So this is the simple definition of aestheticism by Wikipedia. Okay, the main purpose of the aestheticism was art for art's sake. It should be beautiful rather than serving as moral, pragmatic, or allegorical value. That is, art should be for its own sake, not for others' sake. Okay, so this is written in a glossary of literary terms by M.H. Abrams. You can go through it. Okay. The term aesthetica was used by German philosopher Alexander Baumgarten in his Latin treatise Aesthetica in 1750. It should be remembered by you because in many of the exams like NET, SLET, MA entrance, MPhil PhD entrance, such kind of questions are very common. Who used the term aesthetica in his Latin treatise, and what is the name of the treatise? Then you have to answer that he was Alexander Baumgarten. In his work Aesthetica in 1750, he used the word aesthetica to mean that the aesthetic end is the perfection of sensuous cognition, such as this is beauty. That is, you have to remember that everything is related to beauty. All the proponents of, all the propounders of, all the followers of aestheticism were talking about beauty. In the next slides also we would able to see all these things. Let's move to the another slide. Okay, the present uses of aesthetic designates the systematic study of the fine arts as well as the nature of beauty in any object. Here also you can see the nature of beauty in any object, whether it is natural or artificial. So in the views of the past writers or past followers of aestheticism and today's or new followers of aestheticism, almost similar, paying attention to the beauty. Okay, as a movement, it started in 19th century. You have to remember that it is rooted in Europe. It should also be remembered. The headquarters in France. Slogan was art for art's sake, and it came in opposition to the dominance of scientific thinking during the first half of 19th century. All of you know that 19th century was an age of development of science and technology, age of enlightenment, age of rationality. So there was no time for beauty at all. This is why some of the writers, some of the artists came up with the idea that beauty is important. This is why such kind of aesthetic movement came into existence. Okay. In view of German philosopher Immanuel Kant, in his Critique of Judgment, aesthetics, about aesthetics, Immanuel Kant, a critic, a philosopher of Germany, told that pure aesthetics experience consists of disinterested contemplation of an object that pleases for its own sake, without reference to reality or to the external ends of utility and morality. Try to remember the definitions or the statements given by important critics and writers. Then what did Immanuel Kant say? You have to remember that I'm not repeating the same. Okay. It should be pleasing. The main focus is it should be pleasing rather than of utilitarian value or moral value. So aestheticism was practiced and developed by Baudelaire, one of the French poets, one of the most important aesthetic poets of France, who was greatly influenced by Edgar Allan Poe's claim that the supreme work is a poem per se, that is, poem written solely for the poem's sake, is a supreme work. He wrote this in The Poetic Principle in 1850. Okay, Baudelaire was influenced by this particular statement by Edgar Allan Poe. This is why he started writing poetry for the poem's sake. Okay, I think you have understood. Baudelaire's path was followed by two other most important writers. One is Flaubert and another is Mallarmé. You have to remember that. That is, in France, Baudelaire, Flaubert and Mallarmé were the followers of aestheticism. Okay, now coming to England. In England, who started this? Walter Pater. By emphasizing on high artifice of the work of art, stylistic subtlety of the work of art, and by advocating the supreme value of beauty in the work of art. You have to remember these things. Okay, so high artifice, you can understand that. Stylistic subtlety, you can understand that. That is, if it is a poem, then it should be possessed. It should be possessing the qualities which can make it a subtle poem. That is the meter, the rhyme scheme, the lyrical value, all these things, that is all the things of beautification should be there in it. Okay, by following Walter Pater, another writers like Algernon Charles Swinburne, Oscar Wilde, Arthur Symons, Lionel Johnson, J. M. Hushler, Aubrey Beardsley, these writers started writing their poems or started doing on their art of work, paying attention to the aesthetic value not the pragmatic values. So these are the followers of aestheticism during 1880s in England. Okay, where it originated in France, and it came to England during the period of later half of 19th century, that is almost in 1880s. The proponents were, the followers were these. You have to try to find out what they contributed to the field of art and literature. Okay, I'll not discuss all the things in the class because we have time constraint. Okay, they were in the view of the autonomy of the work of art. All of them were in view of the autonomy of the work of art. Autonomy means the art should be independent. It should be it should be for their own sake, not for the others' sake. The emphasis of craft and artistry should be there only. Okay, I think you have understood what aestheticism was and who were the followers of aestheticism, and who said about aestheticism in what way. I think these things are important from any kind of examination point of view. So try to remember all these things and try to include more by reading a lot. Okay, thank you so much.